All right, welcome back to the final round here on Yahoo Finance. Miles Udland with you in New York. Let's take a check of the market here with about 40 minutes to go in today's trading session. Losing some ground here. The Dow now off some 720 points or 2.8%, right near lows of the day. We'll see if we do indeed roll over as we head towards the closing bell again on this volatile Friday afternoon. But let's turn now to our call of the day. And today we're talking about SunTrust's latest on shares of Amazon, putting a $3,400 price target on the stock. That's up from $2,700 per share. They're reiterating their buy rating on the stock. And Jen Rogers, SunTrust saying in many ways what we all know about this time where e-commerce trends are accelerating. But it is interesting to see, I think SunTrust noting that Amazon does have serious competition when it comes to online commerce, saying that their net promoter score, a term from another era, is a positive here for Amazon as people look at things like Walmart.com and Target as real options instead of Amazon in this time.
There's definitely competition, but what this note drove home for me is that I think sometimes we who live in New York City and order from Amazon all the time, yes, I'm talking about myself, miss parts of the Amazon story in that not everybody has been on Amazon. And they drive that home in this note, saying that 10% of people said they purchased from Amazon for the first time since during the COVID-19 shutdown. An additional 8% said they had purchased from Amazon for the first time in over a year. So they reactivated. So the idea that there's still some growth left here, right? We were looking for growth in other areas. We were looking at AWS and what are they going to be doing with Twitch and video games? Well, actually, there's growth in the retail part and that getting those stickiness and those people in. And I just, it just surprises me that there are that many people out there. And in fact, there's still room to grow in retail.
And I think another interesting part of this note, Melody, is SunTrust pointing out that Amazon, even though it seems like you can get something shipped to you in 2 days from any retailer, Amazon does have an advantage when it comes to their logistics network. And they note specifically how, and we all remember this, shipping times were a week back in April, and now it's back to next day. Pretty much everything on Prime is next day or 1 day. And that 2-day free shipping, which became the table stakes, Mark Lowry famously said 5 years ago, that's now kind of out the window.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. We were just talking during the break about TikTok, and actually Walmart is one of the biggest advertisers on TikTok right now, specifically to compete with this quick, rapid delivery service. There's actually a hashtag that's trending specifically about getting it within 2 hours. And we know that that was another area that Amazon was trying to offer that premium service to be able to get smaller window even sooner than day. I do feel like the fulfillment centers obviously gives it a leg up, but I want to pivot a little bit and talk even about the advertising business. We know that was one of the growing sectors of the Amazonian empire, and we'll talk about Facebook, of course, later, but just thinking about the way that companies are shuffling their ad dollars right now, I imagine that Amazon will be the biggest benefactor, right? It's not necessarily going to more interesting startups or taking a daring bet here or there. People know that it's Facebook, Google, and then Amazon is following closely behind. So I know it's not explicitly stated in the note, but I do feel like that's an area that some analysts are actually saying could potentially surpass AWS over the next decade.
Well, it's no secret that Amazon's been on a tear. And when you look at year to date, which obviously doesn't mean that much in the context of what we're seeing, but the stock is up 47% compared to the Dow Jones, which is down 12% for the year. But I actually want to take the other side of Melody's argument here, which is the Facebook argument. When you look at what's going on with their advertising, which we'll discuss later on in the show, part of me does wonder if that's actually a downside risk for this Amazon stock as well. And then obviously Amazon's business model is different than Facebook's, especially when it comes to advertising. But when you look at the idea of these being two large companies that have gotten pulled into a lot of these social debates here when it comes to things like false news or things like political speech or hate speech on their platforms. Amazon, not necessarily on the speech side of things, but on the treatment side of things with the way they've been handling their workers, the way they've been handling their fulfillment centers through this crisis, for example, you do wonder if there is that social risk that companies might want to tie up with them in a business contract as well. So I think that's something that analysts might be expected to zone in on, especially in the medium term for this company.
And that's interesting, Brian, just because if you go back in time, Amazon, Washington Post, Jeff Bezos, that whole thing, I mean, that's still part of the conversation, but certainly these social networks are at a different point in their life phase with respect to their political problems and how that's impacting their business. And Amazon, at least on that count, very much not going to be dealing with that, it appears, over the next couple of years or so.